Okay, we're going to talk about a second training example for cabinets here. It's the same project that we've been working on. It is for legislative office buildings. Let me pull over the schedule for this, and I've kind of given myself the list of the different, let me close out of some of that, given myself the list of the different um, line items that we have for these cabinets here so we can practice with them. There are some that are very, very similar to the one we just drew, L1. I think it was L1. Anyway, so the one we're going to work on today is L4 here, which is a copy room. It is the one that is going to be just slightly different than the L1 series. The rest of these break rooms all share a lot of the same details, and this one probably does as well, but it's not quite as copy paste. So that's why I'm going to use this one as more of an example for you too. Um, Before we call it quits on working on cabinets too, and I'm not saying that we're going to call it quits on cabinets right now, of course, but I will want to go through some other specialty types of cabinets with you as well, including vanities, how they're constructed, what kind of guidelines you have to follow with those. Um, we'll also talk about tall cabinets. We need to get through that too, so I'm going to make a list here as well. So we've got tall cabinets, we've got vanity cabinets. I want to go through microwave cabinets as well. Vanities, tall cabs, microwave cabs. Small one we can go through too is open cabs. So open cabinets, we need to talk about those still too. Just trying to think about any other ones that we may or may not have covered at this point in time. Um, that might be it. I'll keep in mind, I'm going to make this list here. We'll make a separate video for specialty cabinets and we'll just talk about those. We may not actually draw a print that has them, but we'll talk about what goes into them so you know in the future if you're going to be picking up a drawing that has any of those categories of like specialty cabinets, you'll have something to at least reference to go back to. All right, so let's jump right in. We got L4 here. L4 is for the Project 6415 Legislative Office Building. It is some more laminate casework in one of the copy rooms on that project. This one does also have some slight variation. I kind of did some snooping on it before jumping into this meeting here. The countertop is actually laminate on this one instead of solid surface, so it is slightly different in that sense. It has some cabinets are a little bit different as well, so not by a lot, but slightly enough to make it worth digging into here. So let's go ahead and jump right into looking at our arc reference here. So they're calling out elevation view 1 on page I08-04. And if you notice to the left, sorry, to the right of that, it does say sim next to that, meaning that it is similar. So occasionally an architect will be a little lazy and they might write similar next to a view. And if they do that, what they're explaining to you as the person viewing the drawing is that it is similar in a sense to where it's almost exactly the same, but there might be some slight variation to it. Like it might be like, could be missing a cabinet or it could change in size slightly. So we're going to have to be careful about that. What we're going to do though is we're going to go right to the floor plan and then we'll pull up this drawing here. So again, just like we did the last time, I'm going to pull up the material log for this job too. So 6415, I'm just going to make sure I have it here on the side. And that way I can reference it quickly if I need to get back to that. And I'm going to close out some of the stuff so we don't have that in the way. All right. So let's see, this is on level 1. And let's go ahead and find the level 1 floor plan here. So let's go ahead and open a file explorer. Go over to Legislative Office Building here, Project 6415, Drawings, Architecturals, and we're looking for level 1. So level 1 is actually broken into, as you can see, 3 parts. We have A, and then B and C are part of the second drawing set. So in order for us to locate this, we're going to crack open these drawings here and just look for L4 and see what we can find. Should be pretty easy. It's a copy room. So, oh, there it goes. I'm going to say Bluebeam is taking a minute to boot up here. All right. So this is level 1, part A. This part of the building is mostly courthouses and lobby area, security area, etc. L4 actually isn't going to be a part of this part of the building. I know it's kind of hard to see. There, all these little bubbles here are going to kind of help direct you to where to go. But it's actually not on part A, so I'm going to close out of that. And I'm going to go here to part B and C. And we're going to scroll through, just look for L4 here. So another committee room here. We've got some break areas here, which ironically, they're pretty similar to what we've already drawn. So we may be able to have you actually help out with some of those even too, just to practice with. L4. L4 is right here. So this is your copy room here. They do give you overall dimensions of that room from what it looks like. It looks like we're dealing with from wall to wall. We're looking at a room that is 10'4" and 1/8 by 8'7" and 7/8 on this side. The cabinets don't actually run all the way to the wall, so as you probably can guess, there's going to be a finished end on this side. The side is butted to a wall, so most likely we will be putting a filler in this area here next to the cabinet, between the cabinet and the wall. I'm not necessarily seeing an elevation call on here, but I do know that on our drafting schedule, we did have a reference that we were going to use. Looks like, again, V1 on page I08-04. So let's go back here to our File Explorer and find that. All right, I was already looking at it earlier, so it already zoomed right into it there. This is the copy room they're telling us we need to refer to. So it's actually quite a bit easier than the last print that we worked on. We still have upper cabinets, we still have a backsplash, and we still have some base cabinets here. Similar base cabinets to what we've already drawn, but again, just like last time, we're going to kind of go through our research and development sort of part of the drafting process, meaning that we're going to kind of explore what's here and then try to wrap our head around it before we actually go to draw it. So, yep, just like we talked about, looks like there's going to be a finished end on the left-hand side of our elevation here, because these cabinets are going to be seen. They are open to the room here. On the right-hand side, there's actually a wall right here, and they did draw in a filler, which is great because we will definitely need one. They're showing it at 1 inch, which again, we usually draw them at 3/4, but we can draw them at 1 inch just to appease them if we need to. Let's see. Oh, quick note too, anytime you have a finished end, make sure that that countertop overhangs the edge of the cabinet by 1/4 of an inch. That is really important. We'll definitely be drawing that in here shortly. One other thing I want to take note of too is whenever you have upper cabinets, it is really important to look to make sure if there is a ceiling or a soffit that sits right above your cabinet. If no soffit or ceiling exists, that's great. You don't have to do anything different here. If a ceiling or soffit is touching the top of your cabinets, you do have to make sure you put in that 3/4 inch reveal that runs all the way from left to right of the upper cabinets up top. All right, now that we've got that covered, let's go ahead and look at the materials, and then we'll dig into our section views. So material-wise, it looks like everything is calling out PL4. You got PL4 base cabinets, PL4 countertop, and PL4 upper cabs. So let's go back to the material log and take a look at what we've got for PL4 on this project. Let's see, PL4 is Wilsonart Fossil Shale. It's an interesting sounding name. Let's go ahead and take a look at the link to that and see what that looks like. It's actually a pretty boring looking color for an interesting name. So Fossil Shale kind of just looks like mud. All right, well, that's the laminate that they've selected for this, so we're going to roll with that. Also worth looking at is what you have for pattern availability. It's always important to make sure to understand what your limitations are as far as how wide and how long this laminate is available in. And if you notice here on Wilsonart's website, one thing to look at is that they have multiple finishes available for this laminate. So you can get number 60, which is matte. You can get number 1, which is high gloss. Number 5, which is timber grain. So they have all different textures or finishes to this laminate. We need to really pay attention to what finish they've asked for here, and if it's looks like it's just matte. So if we go back to the Wilsonart website, matte is actually readily available in stock in all these different sizes here. So it opens us up to a lot of availability, and we have a lot less to worry about, but it's still worth looking at anyway because you want to make sure that you're drawing something that actually can be built within the limitations of the material that you're using for that drawing. So anyways, with that being said, another place you can look for that too, if you're unsure of where to look for that, I always try to place that here. Right-hand side of your material log, there's this on-site material sizes tab. If you go over to that and click in there, you can actually see all the different sheet sizes that laminate comes in. So I've put that there for you guys as a quick reference, so you don't have to go running through Wilsonart's website, but you can still because their website still has all that same information. All right, so being that everything is PL4, that makes our lives a little easier. It's a little bit less to put on the page notes this time. Let's take a look at our section views and just see what we've got that we're working with here. So let's start with the upper cabinet first. We're going to pull up drawing I08-11 and look at view number 6. So I08-11, view number 6 right there. Okay, so really this looks pretty similar to ones that we've already drawn. We still have that valance at the bottom for that light fixture, which is going to be provided by others or the electrician for the project. Some notes to take note of is we have 2 adjustable shelves shown in this cabinet, so we need to make sure that we include that as part of our drawing. And they do show a reveal at the top with a soffit that's built out here. That'll be made out of drywall. But the reveal here is shown at a 1/2 inch. And in order for us to use our standard cabinet cleats, we will have to change this to be 3/4 inch tall. Shouldn't be a big deal. Just want to point that out. Sometimes you will have to modify what the architect has drawn for our install purposes like that. So we're going to make that 3/4. Take note that the valance needs to have an 1.5 inch minimum drop down here for the light to sit behind, and 2 shelves. So upper cabinet, that's what I'm looking at there. Let's go back to our elevation, and then we're going to go right into this 4-drawer cabinet here. So that's I08-10, view number 1. View number 1 is down below right here. Not a lot here that is, super crazy or, out of out of standard. But we do want to make sure that we are noting that our toe kick is 3 inches deep and 4 inches tall, just to make sure that our drawing reflects that. They do show these drawer boxes that made out of plywood. typically we won't be doing that. We'll just make them with our standard drawer block in the tool palettes. So unless there's a note somewhere that says these need to be like dovetail drawer boxes or solid dovetail drawer boxes, we usually will just make them with our standard. So we don't need to worry about that. Yep, really that's pretty basic stuff right there. Looks like they're using this as a generic section because they have a stone top on here. And as we looked at our drawing in elevation view, they have it clearly called out that it'll be PL4 for the countertop, so it'll be laminate, meaning that this hatching is going to change to be our standard MDF hatch instead of our stone or solid surface hatch. Same for the backsplash shoe, that'll also be PL4, so that hatching will change on our drawing here, but otherwise really not much to look at there. And then you have this middle cabinet with 2 doors. We're going to dive right in and see, I already have IO 8-10 pulled up, so we're going to go to view number 4 this time. Just see what we've got here. So this has one single adjustable shelf in there this time. So write that down if you don't have it written down. It'll be 2 shelves on the upper cabinet, 1 shelf on the lower. And then 1 shelf lower. Got it. Now, same deal about the toe kick and countertop. That's changing to be MDF because it's going to be PL4 and not stone. Toe kick is still 3 inches deep by 4 inches tall. That should be consistent across your drawing anyway. And then one thing I didn't pick up on back before on this drawing here, but it's the same as what we were dealing with last time with L1, is that it does call the inside of the cabinet to be a melamine interior, but cabinets do come in either white or black melamine typically for the interior. So we're going to select whether it's white or black melamine based on the PL4 call. Now, it can be kind of hard to decide what to select for that. Now, we looked at PL4 a minute ago, and PL4 is kind of on the darker side. I might just make this black melamine. I mean, that is pretty dark. I think I'll roll with that. And when they do mark these drawings up in the red line process, if they are trying to change it to white melamine, they can definitely mark it up there. But because they kind of left it open to our interpretation, I'm going to make my best judgment call on that and try to pick something that goes closest to the finish of the outside of the cabinet. All right. Going back here, we got one more cabinet to roll through. This is your trash cabinet, it looks like, view number 5 on the same page. Just one over. All right. Now, same notes apply to this. The only difference with this one is that they have a trash pullout system that looks to be a little different than what we're used to seeing. However, they did kind of generically draw it in, and a lot of times what we'll do is we will actually swap it out for our standard trash pullout. I think we've actually done that on L1 before, and we're going to be doing that here too. So really nothing else to really worry about with that. So, all right. With that being said, I mean, I think we're good to kind of jump right in and get going with this one. All right. Sorry, just trying to make sure I don't have any other notes before we move on. All right. Okay, I think we're good. So just like before, I'm going to split screen with Bluebeam and AutoCAD. Let me close out of that. There's some lovely wild looking banquettes over at one of our jobs. This was for Microsoft South, I think. Sorry, quiz myself on on-site history right there. That thing was pretty cool. There were floating banquettes too. All right. Let's go ahead. AutoCAD's loading on my other screen. I'm going to pull it over here for you. Here we go. There we go. Perfect. All right. There we go. Okay. So as you're starting out in AutoCAD, um, the first thing you want to do is open a drafting template for the project that you're working on. So you can find that. Again, we talked about this last time, I think, too, but this will be within the project folder. So you're going to go to Legislative Office Building, Drawings, Prelim Project, and then this red icon that says DWT at the end of it, this is going to be your drafting template for the project. So you always kind of want to start with one of those if you have one. If you don't have one, ask me. I'll find you a template like we can fill out, but um, most times when you're working in AutoCAD, you're going to start with a template in each job, and that should just be the standard anyway. Oh, that's weird. It opened on my other screen for some reason. I'm going to try that again real quick. There we go. Okay, again, that's in the prelim project folder, so if you're looking for that, that's where you need to go. Okay, here we go. So we got our plot space here. We're going to go right into model though. And well, I suppose we could fill this out first. So yeah, I guess that's a good point. Before you start any drawing, you really should fill out your title block as much as you can to get started with it. And then what you want to do is go from there and save as your drawing into an actual drawing file instead of working off of the template. It'll help because if you're working off the template and AutoCAD crashes, occasionally it won't actually save a backup file, and that's just no good. You don't want that. So, all right. So I am going to start filling this out, starting with the subject. We're going to skip on through all of this, the general notes, finishes, and hardwares. We don't have anything to fill out just yet. There's nothing to do there. Release for production stamp is for the project manager to release that to the listing department to be able to start sending this out to the shop. We don't have any revisions at this point. This is the first draft of the print, so we're going to skip this here. Check boxes have already been filled out for you, as well as the architect, contractor, and the job name, as well as the PM name. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start with the description. And a lot of times what I will do, just to avoid typos and errors on that part, is I'm just going to go right into my drafting schedule here and copy the description of the print that I'm working on. I'll just Control C and Control V right into that text box. Like last time, we are going to erase everything here except for the actual description of the item that we're drawing. And then down below in the secondary text box, you want to put in your location information for this room. Now, it always goes level number, room name, and room number. However, in this case, looking at the floor plan, this room actually doesn't have a number assigned to it. So we will write like TBD for to be determined anytime there is no information shown for that. The same would apply for like the room name. If it wasn't shown on the drawing, you would write TBD for that. And that's just a placeholder to say, hey, we're going to try to figure this out later. It's to be determined. You should always try to put the correct information in if you have it. If it's not available to you, TBD is fine. We just try not to use it as often as we can. So again, date here is going to update automatically. It has that gray box around it, meaning that is a formula-based reference. Will automatically update to today's date as soon as you plot the drawing. Drawn by is going to be your initials there. That is the drafter initials. And then PM is your project manager initials there. Right after that, you have your packet number and your sub number. So these are both right here, right alongside what you're working on here in your schedule. Packet number appears to be 45997 and sub number appears to be 001. 45997 and 001. Okay, now that we've got all that filled out, last thing we got to do before we save as from the template file to our actual file is we're going to relabel this tab here. Instead of fx.0, we're going to put the print reference followed by 0.0. So L4.0, just like that. Okay, now that we've got that filled out, I'm going to go right up to my AutoCAD logo. I'm going to go down to Save As, and we're going to save this as a .dwg formatted file. So that's right there, .dwg, AutoCAD 2018, even though we're in 2025 right now. All right, so we're going to go to the OSW drive. Just a little side note for you too, if there are folders that you're using pretty regularly, if you want, you can right click in here and actually add folders to the sidebar in AutoCAD, which is where I got this at. So I have OSW drive right there. My templates folder is there. My this is an old folder, but library of models is there. And I have my desktop there too. Sometimes I save some stuff there if I don't have a job folder I'm working out of. So it should never be the case, but if it is, I do save some stuff there so I don't lose it. Anyway, so OSW, and we're going to go to Legislative Office Building, and then Drawings, then Prelim Project. That's where all of your CADs are going to be saved. All right, so you can see our L2s or L1s are there, but this one will be L4 space hyphen space PKT, and then your packet number, which you can't just copy it right out of here and paste it into this. Space hyphen space, description and location information, space hyphen space, version 1.0. And if you're following along and you want to save your file as well, go ahead and just put your initials at the end of that. That way you don't accidentally overwrite anything. That way we can see that it's a training drawing too and it doesn't get overwritten by anything. So anyway, version 1.0, again, that's just meaning that this here is the first draft of the print. And then if we ever had a revision in-house, like if I had a correction for you on your list, you would change this again to version 1.1, then version 1.2 if there was multiples. If there was a correction from the architect, as in there's a red line, or the architect had revised their drawing and affected your print, then you're going to change this first number to 2.0 or 3.0 and so on. First draft is always version 1.0 though. All right, save this right there. We are no longer in the template, so that's great. That's exactly where we want to be. And then we can go right over to our model space. Okay. Let me get back to my Bluebeam screen and we'll split screen this again. Just like last time, what we're going to do is we're going to start by making a grid. Actually, I think we did our plan view first last time, which we can do that here. We'll do that first. Let's go back to our plan view for the room. Let's see, L4 is right there. And so the really important thing that we want to note is that that back wall is 10'4" 1/8. These wing walls, we're not going to show them all the way across the entire room on our print because there's no other scope of work over here that pertains to on-site anyway. So what I'm going to do is extend the walls slightly past my countertop and then just chop them off right there. That way I'm not using more paper space than I need to, plus the majority of this room doesn't matter to us. We're mostly just focused on this back wall, and more specifically this corner where the cabinets are located. So let's go ahead and draw this room. I'm going to start by using the line command. And I'm going to just go ahead and draw a line straight down at 10'4" 1/8. So 124.125. I'm going to come off of that wall. Let's go like 40 inches, because why not? We'll draw these lines 40 inches out. Okay. So this kind of provides sort of like the little bit of the outline of where we're going to be working here. Um, I think I'm going to replace this though with one of our wall, floor, and ceiling hatch blocks, which if you're looking for those again, those are on the on-site annotation tool palette, and they're in the hatching toolbar right there. So wall, floor, and ceiling, we'll bring one of those in. There it goes. And you're just going to take that grip point that's there and start lining things up to where they need to be. So just kind of snapping things to the outline that we have drawn, just like that. All right. And then there are still lines underneath of this that I do not want to have in there, those pink lines that we had drawn originally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete those. Quickest way to go about doing that is we have kind of looked at this a little bit before too, but if you click your mouse in the top left corner of whatever it is that you're working on and drag your cursor over, it will give you this blue box. And the blue box is really important because it will only select items that are within the entirety of that blue box. And if you see a green box like this, it's going to select any items that are touching that box, even if they're not totally encompassed by the box. So blue box is only items that are inside of that box. Green box will be anything that is touching at all, will be selected when you click off of it. All right, so countertop. Well, they don't give us the dimension on the countertop here. We kind of have to figure that out. So we're going to go back to our elevation view to determine that. And what we need to do is kind of go back here, add up these dimensions, and then try to also include that 1/4 inch overhang. So we're going to go 1 inch, 1'6", 2'4", 1'6". So I'm going to add those up here on my calculator real quick. And it should be 65 1/4 if you include that 1/4 inch overhang on the finished end. So I'm going to draw in a rectangle. You can either click up here or type that in, just like that. All right, so, oh, you know what? We don't have the depth yet. We got to figure that out. So we know for sure the length or the width of our countertop is 65 1/4. The depth is, let's see if it's called out anywhere here. It may be in the section view, so we're going to go look at some of those and see what they have there. So we use 1 and 5, maybe 4. Take those out of our section area and just take a look at that. They all say see plan so far. So honestly, plan view didn't have that dimension, so let's see what else we can do. Yeah, they all say C plan. Isn't that funny? All right. Well, you know what? That's okay. I think what we can do is we can make a reference or inference based on like what we did before. I think we took a countertop that was in a different drawing, or not in a different drawing, in a different section view, that had similar details, and I think we ended up using that countertop depth to draw our drawing. But it looks like the only one that's called out here is this guy, which is 24 inches. I'm going to look at what we had on L1 here and just verify what we drew. Looks like our countertop was 24 inches there too. One other thing I can do as well is if I'm not too sure and I don't know where to look for that, I can also try to scale this too. So to do that, again, you're going to go to the view title on the bottom left-hand side of your drawing. And you're going to look for this guy here. That's your scale right there. Looks like 1/8 equals a foot scale is the scale they used to draw this. So we're going to go over to this ruler measurements icon in Bluebeam. we're going to go over to presets, and then we're going to set this to be the exact number that's here. So 1/8 equals a foot. There we go. And I always like to set my precision down a little bit. I usually go to a 16th just to make sure I'm not rounding at all, or at least try to minimize the amount of rounding that's happening. So let's go back to our room. And I didn't mention it, but I did click on this icon for length. We're going to use that to get an eyeball sort of guesstimate on what we've got going on here. Let's see if I hold my mouse, saying 2.25 feet. I would be willing to bet that's supposed to be 24 inches though. So we're going to run with that. Typically you want to match whatever they show you. So if they give you a dimension, you want to use that. If they don't give you one, then you got to use the tools that you have to try to figure out what to do with that. So either scaling can be used. If you have a floor plan CAD file, you can use that too to kind of help pull that information from there. But we kind of used a little bit of combination of both. So we made an inference based on a different section view with a 24-inch deep counter. And then we also looked at what we did before on our last L1 drawing, and we did have a 24-inch deep counter there as well. And then here we have, here we have, so we scaled it, we looked at our old drawing, and we kind of looked at another section view on the drawing set. So we kind of use those three things to make our best guesstimate, being that we're thinking these are 24-inch deep counters here. So going back to what we had before, we were just about to draw this. We needed a countertop that is 65.25 long and 24 inches deep. So first dimension here, 24. Tab, we're going to go and type in 65.25 to get our 65.25. Then I'm going to use the move icon or the move tool here. I'm going to move this counter to be right there in line with the corner of the wall, matching up with what we've got here in the plan view from the architect. Then what I'm going to do is make sure I'm on the right layer. Right now I'm drawing everything on hardware. I need to switch that over to geometry. So we're going to make sure that we're drawing all of our lines on geometry. That's the correct layer there. Make sure my preset layer is also set to that, so any lines going forward are still on that layer too. All right, the last thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we draw in our upper cabinets. Upper cabinets do have to be shown with a hidden line on the plan view. So we did this on L1 too, but we need to find out how deep these cabinets are. So just like what we did before with our counter there, it says refer to RCP. How did we find that before? Oh yeah, that's right. We looked at this other upper cabinet, which was 1'3", and I think we just matched that. 1'3" deep. Okay, easy enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw those in. It'll be 15 inches deep. And we're going to extend these out to here. And the last thing we want to do before we call this for right now is we're going to move this over to the geometry dash layer, just like that. So that our base cab or our countertop and our upper cabinets are all drawn in here. Okay. Then I'm going to use the move command one more time. I'm going to move this entire elevation, or sorry, entire plan view down to the corner of my grid here where the plan view lives. For now, we're going to leave that alone. That'll be what it is, but we'll do more detail work on it here shortly. For right now, though, what we're going to do is copy this down to where we're working on the elevation view. Then we're going to rotate this using the rotate command so that way we can make sure that we have this face in the right direction. Now I'm going to move it one more time, just a little higher up here so we can start making that grid that we worked on last time together. So The grid, what I'm going to do is set my layer to something that's going to stand out here. We'll set this to the dimension layer for right now, so it's all red. And I'm going to use my line tool to kind of pull some lines directly from what I'm looking at up here. So wall, and my countertop. Okay, then we want to go ahead and set our heights. So let's make a line at the bottom, and we're going to use the offset tool to go offset 2'10" or 34 inches to get the height of our counter. And then 24 inches, we need to make another offset for that. That'll be the distance between the countertop and the bottom of the upper cabinets. Offset 24. Then offset 36, so offset one more time, 36. All right. Just like we did before, we do want to make sure that we include that reveal since we know that this is touching drywall up at the soffit. So I need to offset this top line actually down 0.75 to make up for that reveal, which is going to end up shrinking our upper cabinets in the long term, but that's what we'll roll with there. Okay, and then the last thing before we finish our grid is we can go ahead and drop in some more detailed dimension or detailed things here like the backsplash and the toe kick and the countertop lines. So right now we know this is the top of our countertop. That's the line that represents that here currently. If we want to take that and offset it, we need to figure out what is the height of that countertop from the front, or the apron height. To do that, we're going to look back at the section page and we're going to snoop around and see what we've got there. Typically, these are going to be 1.5 inches for most drawings. What I'm doing here is I'm kind of looking around their section views to see if they have that called out. Looks like it's right there. So we'll offset this down 1.5, just like that. All right. Then we're going to offset that line that we just offset down. We need to offset that up for the backsplash. So we need to find out what is our backsplash height. Doesn't look like it's shown here. At least not that I'm seeing so far. So what I'm going to do then is go over to my elevation view. Just take a look to see what they have here. See if anything's noted on any of these. Doesn't really look like it. Although I know we must have found it last time. So I'm guessing it either exists or we scaled it last time. I think we'll scale it this time too, just to get an idea of what this is. So we're going to use our scale factor of 1/2 inch equals a foot. Going back to our measurements toolbar here. And it looks like we're already set to that. So 1/2 inch equals a foot. Change our scaling to 1/16 or 1/16 of an inch. So that way our precision is set down a little bit greater than what we had it before. And I'm going to use the measuring length tool to go from top of backsplash to counter. Looks like we're at 4 inches there. So then what I'm going to do is offset this line 4 inches up, just like that. That is representing where the backsplash is going to live and the countertop apron there. So just like what we did for the, oh, we'll do the toe kick too, because why not? So back at our section page, I know our toe kick height was dimensioned here, 4 inches tall. So we're going to offset that line up 4 inches to conclude the horizontal lines on our grid. Then we're going to go back to our elevation view here. And we're going to start to offset the lines across the vertical lines of our grid. So right now these are currently the left and the right side of our countertop. So this guy and this guy. And we're going to offset starting from the wall side. We're going to go 1 inch over. That way that makes up for the filler that's there. Then we're going to offset 18 inches for the 1'6" for this cabinet and this cabinet here. And then we're going to go 2'4" over here. Let's see, so make sure that's correct. That's 28 inches across. We're going to offset that right there. And the last cabinet is 1'6". All right. Now that we have that, we're going to use this grid now to start to populate our elevation view. Okay, so let's start by putting in the floor and wall and ceiling hatch. So we're going to go back to our on-site annotation tool palette over here, and we're going to pull up the floor, wall, and ceiling hatch block right there. And we're going to drop that in, grab the icon or the endpoint at the bottom, and we're going to move that to where it needs to go. So we're going to set it down right there. And we're going to take that and extend it all the way across to there. Extend this all the way to the ceiling height, and then extend that arrow all the way across to over there. I probably should put a wall hatch over here as well, considering there is a wall there. We're just not really concerned too much about it because it doesn't really interact with what we're building. But I'm going to put a wall hatch there anyway, just because I want to represent that it will be there in the field. It may help the installers with visualizing what they are looking at and where they're intending to put the cabinets if we do show all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and show that here. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to set my current layer so that I'm working off of the geometry layer. Then I'm going to take the rectangle tool and I'm going to sort of trace over what we've got going on here. So there's my backsplash line in blue. This here is going to be the front apron of my countertop in blue. I don't need to trace the base trim because that'll be part of the base cabinet blocks. However, I should put in my fillers and my reveal at the top here too. So I'm going to kind of trace that out here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I've got that all documented there. Not much to really worry about. I can remove some of these lines, so now that we've got those drawn in, that's not really relevant anymore. These lines don't really need to be there anymore. And neither does this line here. That's the edge of our countertop there, which is for that 1/4 inch overhang. I'm going to keep this one though because it actually pertains to where our cabinet is going to sit in the long term. So this one goes away as well. That's for the reveal at the top. And this can go away too. That's my wall. So should be left with something like this, which is going to represent just my cabinet. Cleans it up quite a bit, makes it easier to see what's happening here. So like we did last time, I'm going to start with the lower left-hand part of my elevation, starting with the base cabinet on the left. This is a 4-drawer stack. So I'm going to go into my tool palette over here, go down and right-click on it, and we're going to go over to Casework, pull up that tool palette, go into Elevations, and I need to pull out a 4-drawer base cabinet from here. So I'm just going to use that, click and drag that in. And these blocks are pretty complex, so it's taking a good second for it to load. There it goes. Sometimes you got to be a little patient with it. Anyways, so let's use the move command, and we're going to move this to where it needs to be. So drop it right there. Looks like our toe kick height is already set to 4 inches, which is great. We need to adjust the width of our cabinet so that we're in line with where we need to be. And we need to adjust the height to be below the countertop, just like that. All right, before I call this done, let's go ahead and turn on the finished end. Get the second icon down. On the left-hand side, we're going to have a finished end over there. So that's going to add that little piece of base trim, or actually the base trim will stop at the sidewall of the cabinet. And what you're seeing there is a sidewall extending down into the base trim right there, which is what that extra line is. It also adds on the finished end label right there. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's move on to our two-door cabinet. And if you remember from our notes that we took earlier, this two-door cabinet does have a single shelf in it. So let's go into our tool palette and pull in a two-door base cabinet here. All right, I'm going to drop it right where that corner meets the other cabinet. Got to do a little bit of fine tuning. We're going to move this over so that it sort of fits into our grid. Slide this down. That way it sits below the countertop. And then we need to toggle on the one shelf option. Okay. No finished ends, no fillers for this cabinet. So we are good with what we've got. Moving on to the last one, this is our trash can cabinet. So we need to go find that in the tool palette too. That is the trash base cabinet there. We're going to pull this in and we're going to use the move command once more to move this to where it needs to go. Adjust the width of these cabinets here, or this cabinet. Adjust the height of that cabinet there. And actually, I'm not going to delete these lines just yet. I almost did, but I actually need those for my upper cabinet still. So let's move on to the upper cabinets next. All right, upper cabs, we have a single one-door cabinet here with two adjustable shelves within it. So we're going to go find that in the tool palette here. We got our one-door upper cab. You want to go ahead and drop that to be right below the reveal at the top. And then we're going to adjust. Right now it's already started with two shelves, but we do need to make sure that we have only a bottom valance because we don't have a top and a bottom valance on this particular cabinet. Then we're going to move this down and we're going to move this over, lining it up with our grid. Okay, the last thing that we need to do is we need to take a look at our valance height. So looking at the section view of the cabinet, this is view number 6 over here, they are looking to get a valance height of 1.5 inches tall. Now, when we throw that in there, we're going to include the bottom of this cabinet too. So really when we draw this in, we want to make sure that that is 1.5 plus 3/4 of an inch. So 0.75 plus 1.5, making this valance here 2.25. And then what I'm going to do is I just copy this over using the copy command. I'm going to mirror this block using the mirror command. So again, to use that, you just type that in, highlight what you're trying to flip, and then you want to hit enter. It's going to ask you for 2 points for a mirror line. I always just turn my ortho snap on and I go from straight up to straight down. And in this case, I don't need the original, so I can hit yeah, erase source objects on that. All right, I'm gonna move this cabinet. And I'm gonna line it up to where it needs to go right there. All right, then we have a two-door upper cabinet. Again, still two shelves, still the same valance. So we need to add one of those in from our tool palette here. Two-door upper cab right there. Okay. Bottom valance only and two shelves. Let's move this over. I'm just adjusting these to meet our grid, just like we've been doing. Just kind of doing it without explaining it, but that's what I'm doing here. Okay. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and erase our grid. The grid's no longer needed here. We're good to go. I do have to add, oh, I almost forgot that one. I do have to add a finished end call on this upper cabinet because it is open to the room. Don't think these upper cabinet blocks have that option assigned to them. So what we're going to do is when we go to plot this, we'll have to remember to throw that in as a text box up there. Should be no big deal. Let's just set ourselves a reminder so we know to do that. Okay, got it. Okay, one other thing worth noting is I have 3 base cabinets, and base cabinets, the trim or the base trim that sits at the bottom of those will come in lengths of several feet and then be cut down in the field. So all these extra joints that are in here, we're going to remove those by using a wipeout. I'm going to go and wipe out this by drawing around the base or the points that go around that. So just kind of click, 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 click. And then when I get to the end here, I'm going to hit enter. And it should hide all of those extra lines on the base trim. Fillers will always butt to the top of that base trim too, by the way. So if you have a filler here, you want to make sure that it stops at the top of that base trim, just like that. And then on the left-hand side where the finished end is, you will want to make sure that that extra line is there for finished ends only. So that's actually intentional. It doesn't need to be there. All right. Then what I'm going to do is move this elevation view. I'm going to go ahead and place it right there at the corner, just like my elevation or my plan view. Looks like I got a couple extra lines here that I'm going to get rid of using that that blue box we talked about. I'm just highlighting and removing those. That was part of my initial grid that we drew. So now that those are gone, that should be pretty good for the elevation view for the time being. We are still going to add in things like this outlet and the poles and different things like that. But we'll save that for the detail pass through when we get through this drawing here. All right. Next up is the section views. And so as you're drawing section views here, we need to take the plan view and the elevation view, and we're going to kind of line them up in a way where here I'm using rotate and move. And I want to line these up in a way where I can kind of do another grid system similar to what we've already done, but setting myself up so I know exactly where our cabinets are going to be. Okay, so, all right, from there, I'm going to do my horizontal grid, so my vertical grid. So I'm just taking lines straight off of my elevation view over here. And this is going to help you with making sure that everything is exactly the same dimension from one view to the next. Making sure there's no odds and ends that don't match up. So everything will be perfectly lined up from one view to the next. So again, there's my plan view, just spun around the other way, and my elevation view over here. So I'm kind of crisscrossing those lines and getting it ready to go so I can start making my section views here. Okay, section view wise, I am going to start again in the bottom left corner of my drawing here. I need to include my countertop first. So what I'm going to do is go into the on-site tool palette under casework, and then under cabinet parts, you're going to find the countertop block right there. Countertop block, we'll drag and drop that in. There it goes. And because this one is different than our last one, we are going to be using 3/4 of an inch instead of the 2 cm. This is to let us know that this is a any of these down here that have millimeters or centimeters, those are for stone, solid surface, and quartz. This one that just says 3/4 of an inch, that is going to be used for laminate or veneer and that sort of thing. So whenever you see this 3/4 of an inch, that's what that is. And that's the kind of countertop that we have here. We're dealing with PL4. All right. Some other things to talk about too. We can still use subtop strips. We only really use a full subtop when you're dealing with a large span. So something that is like about 36 or 48 inches wide. You'll probably want a full subtop for that to make sure that your countertop is being fully supported. And that's if there's nothing below that counter. Now, we don't have anything like that here. All of our countertop is being supported by the cabinet, so we don't have to worry about using anything other than subtop strips here. Moving on down this, we actually don't have ledger either. Ledger is going to be utilized for sometimes for floating counters, or if you have a counter that spans over an opening like a refrigerator, you can use a ledger to help support that countertop. Then here, we do use scribe on laminate counters, so you can turn that on. The scribe is there to show that we are going to have the installers in the field. We'll send this countertop actually longer in depth, so it'll actually come at 25 inches instead of 24. It'll have this little tab at the back, and that tab is that extra inch. They're going to shave this down or cut it down to match the profile of the wall. So if the wall is slightly goofy, out of whack, they have this to be able to make up for that, to make sure that this countertop stays flush with the front, or well, not flush with the front of the cabinets, because I think we have a setback here, but to bump this out to be a perfect 24 inches all the way across the wall. All right, that's scribe. And then down here, the last option is for back apron, which only gets used on furniture pieces or islands that are free floating in the middle of a room. If you don't have an apron, in this case we won't because we're up against a wall, we'll just have to say no back apron on this. Then what we're going to do is make sure that we're set to the correct dimensions. So we need this to be 24 inches and we need this to be 1.5 inches. Once we have confirmed that those are correct, we'll use the move command, and we're going to move this countertop to right here. Okay, so that'll be the start of our first section. We're also going to drop in a backsplash here, which will be the same material as the countertop. So we're going to model that here at 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch thick by 4 inches tall. So make sure this is on the geometry layer. And again, I should probably actually switch that back so I'm on that layer permanently. I'm going to throw hatching on this backsplash too. Let's go ahead and go over to the on-site annotation tool palette and throw in the MDF vertical hatch there. So that should be our counter and backsplash. We're good with that. Then we need to draw in our section for the 4-drawer stack right there. So let's go back to our initial view that they gave us. This is the drawing they want us to work off of. So what we're going to do is go into our tool palettes, go down to casework, and then sections. And then just like last time, the cabinet sections are kind of a build your own cabinet style right now because that's the way they're kind of programmed for the current time being. Whoops, move. I'm going to move this to be taking this back corner, placing it to be in the back corner of my grid. And then what I would like to do is to make sure that my setback is correct. So currently, it does not look like they have a setback called out. I do need to provide that though. So what I'm going to do is scale that off of our drawing that we have currently. Looks like our scale is at 1.5 inches equals a foot. All right. And then we're going to use the length tool again, just like before. And we're going to kind of scale right off of this to get an idea of what it is that we're dealing with here. So 1/2 inch appears to be what that setback is. And that's from the front edge of the counter to the front edge of the drawer. So because we know that now, currently our cabinet is drawn where these white dots for the front of the drawer are in line with that countertop. We need to adjust the counter or the cabinet depth so that way we can get that 1/2 inch gap. So we'll make our cabinet at 23.5 instead of 24 inches deep, which should give us that little gap that we need right there. All right, next, we need to draw in our drawer fronts. So we're going to do that by using the rectangle command. And we're going to draw based on the white dots that we have here. We're going to go up to here, set our depth. I'm going to actually set this to negative 0.75 this time. Last time I was having issues with it where it was showing up over here. So if I type in negative 0.75, it'll actually move it to the left-hand side of where I'm drawing it. Anyways, that's kind of irrelevant here. But what I'm going to do is go from this point to this point here, throw in some MDF vertical hatch. So I'm going to go back to on-site annotation, hatching, MDF vertical hatch. And I'm going to use the copy command to copy these all the way up. So again, being real careful to make sure I'm using those white dots. They are kind of hard to see, I'm sure, on this video, but they are there. So as you're working on that, that's what you're going to use. Got all 4 of my drawer fronts put in. And I need to pull in a drawer box now. So going back to my on-site annotation, I need to go actually to casework, cabinet parts, and then pull in a drawer box here. All right, we're going to resize this. First, let's just kind of shrink it up a bit. That way we can kind of get it to fit behind the drawer front. Then the other thing we want to do too, like we said last time, AWI does have some standards when it comes to drawers. They actually want them to be within 2 inches of the back of your cabinet. And we have standards on drawers as well because our drawer slides are only available in increments of 2. So as you're drawing a drawer in, they are locked to those 2-inch increments, and they have a minimum and maximum length. That way, your drawer can't be smaller than the smallest slide, and it can't be longer than the longest slide. So anyways, you're going to take that, make sure that you do have at least, or at most, 2 inches back here. So right now we're at 30 seconds. That's great. That's within our standard. And we are at increments of 2 with our drawer box. So we are within standard there as well. I kind of just used the move command. I lowered this drawer box down. I'm going to raise it up now 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch is the bare minimum that you can do between the bottom of that drawer and the underside or the bottom of your inside of your cab. Okay. And I noticed I do have a lot of space here, so I'm going to see if I can maybe make this drawer box a little bigger. We'll make it 5 inches tall instead of 4, and just see what we can do with that. Move that up 1 inch. That does look quite a bit better. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the copy command. I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to copy this all the way up now, using the same base point of the front corner of my drawer front, just like that. Okay, so aside from adding the wall and the floor hatch, this section view is pretty much done, at least for now. We're going to add in the poles later, but let's go ahead and drop in that wall and floor hatch here. I need to rotate this so that way it's facing the correct way. And then I'm going to use that move command to place it right at the corner where my wall and floor will meet. All right. I'm just kind of making these a little oversized here. That way it sticks up past the backsplash and sticks out past the front of my cabin counter. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this section view using the move command. I'm going to place it down below where our section views are going to live. So down here on this grid down here. I do need to salvage parts of this to make the next cabinet. So the next cabinet is a 2-door base cab. So keeping that in mind, we should have the same countertop, the same backsplash, same cabinet carcass, and same wall and floor hatch there. So I'm going to copy this back up to the top, just like that. And then what I need to do is put in a single adjustable shelf, and I need to add in a door block. So single adjustable shelf will be here under casework, and then go to cabinet parts. Cabinet door is the block we want to start with. Use that move command, and we're going to go ahead and place it so it's in line with that white dot at the bottom. And then shrink this down to there, to that other white dot. Should leave you with a 1/4 inch gap at the top. And then we need to drop in one adjustable shelf. Once we have that, see you, Tina, have a good night. Once we have that, we're going to take the adjustable shelf block and we're going to move this using that grip point of the dead center of that. We're going to slide this over to be kind of in line like that. All right. Now, what I would like to do with this now is use the copy command this time. That way I can kind of keep this here where it is, but put this section view exactly where it needs to go here. And similar to what we talked about last time, I do like to space these out evenly with each other. So I kind of first use the move command to line up my cabinet with the cabinet next to it. I'm going to use the move command again, hit enter, and then use PR, which will select the previously selected object. Hit enter, and then enter again, and then slide it over some amount of change over there. That's probably a little much, but I'll slide it over 50 inches. How about that? So 50 inches from there to there gets me a nice even space between these, but they're not like a mile apart. Again, that's really not anything that pertains to the drawing or anything that relates to the drawing, but like from the drafter side, it is really important because if somebody has to do any rework or revisions to this drawing, it helps to have all of your information neatly organized in your model space too. So let's go back to here, and we're going to draw in a trash pull-out cabinet. So kind of going back to the basics here, we need to just start over with just the countertop, the backsplash, and the cabinet carcass. Okay. The thing with this is we want to make a drawer front. So we're going to use the rectangle here. We're going to go from the top corner here, and we're going to draw this down to here. We do, however, want to make sure that we're drawing it at the correct thickness. So we're going to make this 0.75 thick. Hit tab on your keyboard and then adjust the height just like that. Okay, once you've got that in place, then you're going to throw in your vertical hatch. Just like that. Okay, now that that's all in place, we're going to go ahead and pull in a trash cabinet block from our either the tool palette or the block library. It just depends on where they're saved. I always forget if they're in here or not, but if they're not in here currently, they will be here at some point soon. See, to be either under on-site casework or on-site hardware, and I think that in the hardware there are trash cans, but no pull-out blocks that go with it. So to locate that, at least for the time being, it will be in the tool palette down the road, but for right now, if you're looking for it, you're going to want to go to your OSW drive. You're going to go down to Engineering In-House, In-House, and then you're going to go over to A Templates, okay? And then it should be within the blocks file itself. The blocks file is again, the database that feeds your tool palette. So everything that you're pulling out of the tool palette actually comes out of this file here. So down below, this is where all the trash cans live. It's a little bit further down the list. But I think this is the same one we used last time. We're going to copy and paste this block right out of here into our CAD file here. All right. Now, there is a grip point that's predefined up here at the top. That's going to line up with the top corner of your drawer front. Should give you a 4-inch gap from the top of that drawer to the underside of your cab there. And then just like any other drawer, you do want to make sure that you're within 2 inches of the back. So I need to adjust the depth of this here. So I'm at least a maximum of 2 inches from the back. Once I have that set, this section view is pretty much done. So that was real easy peasy. I can go ahead and move this now to my area where my sections live down below. Okay. Next up, we have our upper cab. And fortunately for us, we only have to draw one section for all 3 of these cabinets, because if you're cutting through any of these, it's going to look exactly the same from one to the next. So we'll take a look at our elevation view and then our section view here, and just make sure that we have this correct. So let's see, section view is view 6 on this page, which was this guy here. Okay, so back to our tool palette under casework and section views. We're going to go to the upper cabinet with valance, and actually let's go to upper cabinet with valance and reveal, which will have the built-in reveal at the top for you, which is exactly what you need for these types of cabinets, since they are butting into a ceiling up above. All right, so let's go ahead and use the move command, and we are going to move this cabinet so that it is actually in line with, let's say right here, there's your wall. Actually, I need to move it up a little bit because that's my reveal block line right here. There's my cabinet line there. So we're gonna, whoops, not that one. Oh shoot, I did this backwards. One sec. All right, I need to adjust this to match up with that. Okay. And we want to make sure this valance is what they say they want at 1.5 inches tall. So let's go DI or DIST. We'll do a distance check on that. We'll go from top to bottom. It is showing 1.5 inches on the inside, which is perfect. It's exactly what we want to see. And we just have to add in a door. Oh, and actually, before I forget, let's adjust the depth there too, and then we'll add our door on. So under cabinet parts, we're going to go to cabinet door, and I'm going to use the move command here. And whoops, make sure I grab that corner spot on. And just adjust this so that it lines up with those white dots, just like that. This upper cabinet does have 2 adjustable shelves within it too, so we need to make sure that we are drawing those in. We're going to go over to the cabinet parts again and grab an adjustable shelf to drop in. I'm going to start by placing this one in the dead center. And although this upper cabinet doesn't appear to have a white dot for this, we do need to make sure the adjustable shelf is showing a 1/4 inch gap between the front of that shelf and the cabinet carcass front right there. So 0.25. I'm going to adjust the depth to there. And then I'm going to adjust the number of shelf pins a little bit. I'm going to undersize that to 12. Okay, and then because we need 2 shelves, what I need to do is copy this block and sort of just take this and line it up here. I use the center of one of the shelf pins, line it up with the center of a different shelf pin, giving it like the appearance that it's in line with each other. And the shelf pins are all exactly the same spacing from one another to another. We'll use the move command one more time. And we're going to use the mid between 2 points. So to get to that again, hold down shift and right click your mouse. Go up to mid between 2 points here. And you're going to go from center of that point to center of that point. And we're going to go again, now shift and right click. We're going to go mid between 2 points once more to go from there to there. Okay. Now that we have that, we'll just drop in our ceiling and our wall hatch. Ceiling and wall hatch. Sorry, there we go. All right. Now that I have that wall and ceiling hatch, I'm going to drop this down over here. There we go. Delete this grid now that we don't need that anymore. And that kind of leaves us with a good stopping point for this video. So we have our section views drawn, our plan view drawn, and our elevation view drawn. We are going to come back within the next video. We are going to add our poles to these and add any other detail work that we need to add to these cabinet drawings. And then we're going to work on adding these drawings to the paper space after that. So adding viewports, view titles, and following that, then we got to go through and make sure we have our elevation section calls, material calls, any hardware calls that we need, and the page notes. So we might have to break this up into a couple more videos, but I think we can get through this one a little quicker than the last one. This will be the second, sort of practice one that we're going through. So I'm going to go just a little bit quicker, but not too fast that you probably won't be able to keep up. So I'm going to stop this one right here and then save this as, or sorry, just save it. And then we will come back to this in the next one.